Who else worked with you on this is called, let me strike that. The reference to the plan submitted as Exhibit B3 is called a preliminary site plan, correct?
Correct.
One-page plan, right?
Right.
Okay. Who worked with you on that plan?
There's a design team of Greg Glitzer is a professional engineer. He's the head of our land development department.
And who is that, Mr. Glitzer?
Yes.
All right. Did you work under him in preparing this plan?
Yes.
He's a licensed engineer, is that correct?
Correct.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in connection with testimony before a municipality in Bucks County on a conditional use application?
I have not.
Have you ever qualified as an expert in testimony before a zoning hearing board in Bucks County in connection with any land use application?
No.
Have you ever testified as an expert before in connection with land use applications that involve zoning and subdivision and land development matters?
No.
I have no other questions. For the record, I'm going to object to this gentleman's qualifications. One, he's not a licensed professional engineer. The borough ordinance is clear that there has to be compliance with not only the zoning ordinance, but also subdivision and land development and other ordinances. I understand that the borough may wish to overrule that, but for the record, I feel I need to make that objection.
Thank you. Council has heard Mr. Green's qualifications and certainly can take that into account in determining the weight that you give to his testimony. Does anyone on council specifically have any objection to Mr. Green's qualifications as an expert? Yes.
I would join in on that objection for Mr. Green's qualifications.
Thank you, Mr. Showtime. If there's no objection by council, I would recommend that he be qualified as an expert and we can move on. Thank you.
This is a Mr. Green, if you can, if you would, probably best if you use the diagram, the map that's posted there. And just orient the board as to as what this A3 shows and what the present conditions are on the property.
Mr. Duffy, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just since the board has been handed copies of A3, perhaps you can move that board so that it faces the audience and they would have a better opportunity to see it. Well, I don't want to block your view from anybody on council, but will you be pointing out specific?
I'm going to ask Mr. Green just to point out.
I apologize. Then it may make sense for council to see where he's pointing, but if you can just have it so that at least most of the audience can't see it. Thank you.
Okay. If you can just orient the board as to the site and just explain what is presently located on the site.
This is an aerial photograph taken in 2005 of the proposed site. Existing site features Newtown Creek borders the site on the west side, State Street on the east side. We have currently it's vacant. Former use of the site was a car dealership. You can see there's 5 existing structures on the site. 2 of them masonry block buildings, and the other 3 are frame buildings. A lot of the site is paved macadam, used for storage and parking of vehicles in former use of the site. There's also areas that are compacted gravel that you see to the south side of the site. There is flagged wetlands that were delineated that are shown on the south side of the site as well. In this area here, along with the vegetation and wetland vegetation and underbrush. Along the Newtown Creek portion of the site, there's existing vegetation along there, steep slopes as well, sloping down into the Newtown Creek.
And all the existing structures will be removed, except for
all but one.
Ones, right?
Right. There's one existing structure that is proposed to remain.
And just for the record, you're indicating there's a structure at the corner of Penn Street and State Street, correct?
Correct. Now, there's also a stormwater management facility that I failed to mention that's located in this location, which is towards the south side of the site, on the south side of an existing structure.
That's a football-shaped area of green adjacent to the structure in the rear, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you want to put up a copy of the plan? And this plan's already been marked as, I believe, Borough 3, is that correct?
Correct, Borough 3.
Okay. Mr. Green, can you just generally give us an overview of what the plan shows? Give Borough Council an overview of what the plan shows generally.
Sure. The plan is comprised of several different uses. One of the uses is a multifamily residential section of the site, which is located on the south end of the site, consisting of 6 units, multifamily units. There is a parking structure proposed, which is a 2-tier or 2-deck, 1 ground level and 1 tier above parking structure. There is a mixed-use designation to the buildings that front onto South State Street. And there's also a parking area that's proposed to be beneath the multifamily residential units.
And you're familiar with the Newtown Borough zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct.
And in the, I believe it's the V2 Village Gateway District, is the TND1 use permitted by conditional use?
By conditional use, yes.
Do you have a copy of the ordinance, TND1 ordinance?
Yes.
Just for reference, this was adopted earlier this year as ordinance number 711. And we'll refer to that as the TND1 ordinance in our comments. I'd like to draw your attention to the definition of a traditional neighborhood development, which was added to section 201 of the zoning ordinance by the recent TND1 ordinance. And ask if you can just comment on how this plan is designed and intended to meet what's meant to be a traditional neighborhood development.
Yes, it provides a mix of uses throughout the site. There's multiple different types of residential unit sizes and types proposed on the site. It integrates the pedestrian scale connection between different sections of the site and access to the site. It provides multiple different types of open space opportunities. It preserves natural resources that are on site. And the general diversity, mixed-use aspect of the plan.
And during my opening comments, I mentioned that once the conditional use phase is completed, that we'll still be proceeding through the land development process. Is that correct?
Correct.
And at that point in time, the finer designs required under the SALDO, the Subdivision Land Development Ordinance, will be implemented and incorporated into this plan?
Right.
I'd like you to just give a general overview of some of the uses that are permitted in the TND1. And specifically, I'd like you to take a look at section 401 D3A1 of the TND1 zoning ordinance, which identifies uses that are permitted on the TND1 use. Is multifamily dwelling, is that a permitted use?
Yes.
Have a parking structure?
Yes.
And have a village retail or service businesses?
Yes.
And drawing your attention to section 201 of the ordinance, the definition of mixed-use building, do the 5 mixed-use buildings to the front of the site meet that definition in the zoning ordinance?
Yes, they're proposed. There's 2 uses proposed for each of those buildings. The first is a retail component on the street level and residential units above that.
Referring to the plan that's posted up there, could you just demonstrate to Borough Council, just generally, what the flow of traffic would be like through the site?
Vehicular traffic on site is accessed, there's a two-way vehicular access drive provided off of South State Street. This is a two-way drive in this area here. There is a one-way vehicular access using Penn Street, the existing cartway of Penn Street is a one-way into the site, and a one-way flow of traffic through the middle of the site here. The vehicular circulation would come back, and this gives access to the parking structure and the below-grade parking structure that's associated with these uses here.
What's the, there's a circular area in the way there with a green and blue circle in the middle. What is that? Conceptually, at least. Conceptually, at least.
Conceptually, it's a vehicular diversion to provide access to parking areas. The central feature of that is proposed to be some sort of water feature or focal point entry into the development.
And can you comment upon the courtyard? Conceptually, what is that courtyard?
There's the brown area that you see in between the multifamily residential units is labeled as a courtyard. That is an open space that's designated for pedestrian use. Could be used for civic events, public open space, social interaction, that sort of thing, access to the other open space that's provided on the site.
And the yellow areas surrounding the two side-by-side mixed-use buildings on State Street. There are yellow areas, there are some green areas in there. Can you explain what conceptually those areas are?
So all the yellowish areas that you see on the plan is proposed as pedestrian walkways. There are proposed, again, open space areas built into the streetscape, I would call it, along South State Street to provide basically pocket parks within these areas and pedestrian walkways through those, between the buildings and through the site.
Can you comment upon the, and you can do this either sitting down or up there, the dimensional requirement for the tract area, for the size of this location, and whether it complies with that, with those requirements?
Yes, the minimum requirement is 2 acres, and the site that we're dealing with here is 6.75 acres.
Okay. I'd like to draw your attention to one of the provisions of the ordinance, section 401D3C. Which concerns open space. And I'd like you to take Borough Council through the various open space requirements and then demonstrate how the plan complies with those requirements.
Okay. Section C requires a minimum of 20% of the gross acreage to be developed as open space. We are providing 2.7, which the gross acreage is 6.75 acres. 20% of that would require a 1.35 acre requirement of open space. The plan as provided, we are showing 2.7 acres of open space, which is about 40%.
And then the subparts, C1, C2, C3, can you walk council through those requirements?
C1, at least 20% of the minimum required open space shall be contiguous and remain in natural condition. I'll point to the areas that are relevant. There is the area adjacent to the Newtown Creek, including the required riparian buffer area, the wetlands, the existing wetlands, and wooded areas that are in this general location along the Newtown Creek are all included in that contiguous area.
And just for the purposes of the record, you're pointing to the areas of, there are 3 different shades of green in the area to the west of the multifamily residences, correct?
Correct, as well as the parking structure to the west of the parking structure.
Okay. Can you comment on, and the Planning Commission had a question about the varying shades of green